There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Introducing the upgraded Heightened Radio Replacement Kit for Jeep Wranglers. Made for Jeep Wrangler JK models from 2011 to 2018. This kit has everything you need to completely upgrade your Jeep Wrangler radio. Specifically designed for the stunning Stinger Heightened 10-inch touchscreen display and infotainment system. A completely plug-and-play harness makes installation super easy while retaining your Jeep's factory controls. A custom-fit dash kit designed to make your Jeep look like it rolled off the factory floor with a Heighten already in it. And dual USB ports that can be flush-mounted by replacing your 12-volt charger. Just follow our included installation guide to add amazing features like safe and convenient Bluetooth hands-free calling and streaming audio, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, where you can send and receive messages and phone calls, listen to music and podcasts, and access your phone's navigation apps all from your radio. And of course, no car infotainment system would be complete without safety features. This system includes four camera inputs. You can add a backup camera, 2 side view cameras, and a front camera, or any combination of cameras. And if you purchase the optional micro SD card with offline map software, you'll get integrated GPS navigation from iGo for accurate and up-to-date maps and turn-by-turn navigation without needing a cell phone signal. And finally, for you audiophiles out there, this system is DSP ready and comes with a built-in high-power 4-channel amplifier providing 50 watts per channel, 4-volt 6-channel RCA outputs, subwoofer level control, Toslink fiber optic output, built-in crossover with high and low-pass filters, 15-band adjustable EQ with customizable presets. Ready to change the way you drive? Transform your Jeep Wrangler today with the Stinger Heightened Radio Replacement Kit.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM on this Monday, post K-Fest Orlando. What a busy weekend it was for many in the industry. I hope you guys had a chance to catch our live coverage from Knowledge Fest that we just put on our website as well as on our social media just yesterday. Had some great guests and really got a glimpse of what K-Fest was all about. Now, on that note, we are starting this week strong with PAC Audio, as you saw in our intro, and arguably going to have on with me today one of the hardest working men in the business. I don't even know how he goes from place to place and does what he does, because I literally just seen him at the show all weekend. He was setting up, and then he came on and did a segment on the ME coverage, and then here he is today. So there must be duplicates of him. I'm not sure, but we're happy to have him on as usual. His name is Jeff Smith, representing AAMP Global, more specifically PAC Audio. The Jeff Smith. There is only one The Jeff Smith, right?
There is only one, Ben. Sometimes I really wish there were about 10, 15 of me, bro. I need it.
I don't even know, because let me get this right. You do all the training and the events. You were just at a Jeep event, weren't you?
Yeah,
and
then,
then
events weren't too far away, but yeah, K-Fest was awesome the last 4 days. Well, 3 days for everyone else, 4 days for manufacturers.
Set up and take down, right?
Set up and take down, and literally, tore the booth down last night, got it all packed up, me and the team, and then shot back here to the office and to shuffle back and forth between warehouse and office and get ready for CMA, to do some more training, man.
And here I am ruining your Monday morning. Say, bro, I don't care what time you go to bed Sunday. We need to do a pre-production meeting for today's show.
Right.
Yeah, you're loving me right now, I'm sure.
9:30 calls for Ben. Yes, sir.
But hey, this is all about education. And, we're another platform that we have an audience that likes to hear about what's happening. Not all of us, Canadians especially, had a chance to come to K-Fest. And I know that you had some new announcements, some new product. I'm hoping you can share some of that with us today.
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest things that a lot of manufacturers wanted to convey to the industry is that we understand their pain, right? Because we're all feeling the impact of all the chip shortages, which turn into,
Mm.
no head units, scarcity of interface devices, scarcity of DSPs is coming because there's no chips. I mean, dude, these chip fires were so
But
unforeseen, their own issues that came about.
mhm. I just want to know, because you were there, you finally got a chance to talk to dealers, in person, like level of severity of impact of this situation.
Oh, it's massive, but dealers have gone from their tier one, head unit sales, Alpine, JVC, Kenwood,
Sure.
Pioneer, all the ones that you typically have, it's like water, it's like breathing. These head units being in shortage has never been an issue. Now with all these other issues, guys are going to tier two, tier three, and then having to think about what I talked about all weekend is life beyond the head unit. What are our options for doing upgrades for our clients that don't necessarily have to have a head unit in order to add technology or in order to improve their audio system with the OEM's head unit or screen that they already have. So that's one of the things we really wanted to focus on at this show. And we did a really good training, had great attendance, and even in the booth, guys are coming by, and all the dealers are really kind of focusing around that, life beyond the head unit.
So on that theme, which I'm really excited to get into, my comments on that are as follows. 3, maybe 4 years ago, I would say that life beyond head unit was somewhat limited as far as the availability of options, solutions on the market. Man, the last 3 years in the OEM integration category has just blown up. And that and the fact
Right.
that, let's be honest, and this is not to knock any of the head unit manufacturers because they do great products. I love them myself. But there are some vehicles that come with some pretty nice OE gear as far as interface, screen, so on and so forth. And
Correct.
not only are they great quality, we know they meet OEM spec, but some of them are in these weird shapes,
Hmm.
shallow, width, all these kind of variables. So there's that one element to it. The other element to it, I think it's a question of tendencies. So like how us older guys were like, yeah, we got to have a laptop, we got to have a desktop. You talk
Hmm.
to these younger students at university, they don't want a laptop or a desktop. They're running off a
No.
tablet, and that's it.
Yep. Yep.
So it's just that mindset of coming in thinking, I need to upgrade my sound system because I
Yeah.
want a
Creatures of
better
habit.
creatures of habit.
Creatures of
I,
habit.
I must need a head unit to get that better sound quality. And I
Right.
think what we're about to
So
go through today might,
exactly. So
clear that
kind
up
of,
a bit.
yeah. So one of the biggest things dealers have to realize is that in the olden days or years past in older model vehicles, the OEM quality, sound quality of that head unit was not anywhere near the quality of what today the OEMs are put into head units. Because if the sound quality wasn't so great, then there wouldn't be companies like us that create digital interfaces that work with these OEM head units. One of the big misconceptions with the AMP Pro product, which we'll talk about later, is that it cleans up your signal. It flattens out your signal. No, we're already using that perfectly flat signal that exists in a lot of these modern vehicles. It's just that it's fixed level and they have no volume control over it. So digital interfaces give you the ability to tap into this really good signal in the vehicle, but typically you would not have a good way of interfacing with it. So we'll leave it at that
Very
and we'll
cool.
explain once we get to that AMP Pro
All
section.
right. So the theme is life beyond head units. I know we have a little presentation I'm going to throw up, and let's get our learn on. How about that?
All right, cool. Let's go for it. So life beyond the head unit. So this is really the thought process of when customers come into your store, you pretty much have to think of the upgrade process, right? So beyond that, when someone comes into the store, it is what is the ability or what is available to you to get good sound or better sound and keep your OEM head unit. What possibilities are there? Because our typical thought process, like we said, our old dogs, you have a new vehicle come in and your options are to replace the head unit to get better sound. But now we actually can integrate into those, because right now there's not a lot of options for replacing the head unit. It's become extremely scarce. So in thinking that, we think about making better sound. So we're going to start with better power, more power to get that, dynamic ability and increase signal to noise, and to overcome the limitations of most factory systems, which is going to be the lack of power and a lack of speaker quality. And in modern problems that we're faced with a lot of these vehicles is that the OEM head unit, even though it's integrated into the vehicle, it looks really sleek, really clean, and you can't really replace it. But it's the audio aspects of that head unit that you have to fight. Dynamic EQ curves, the premium EQ functions that are done from JBL, from Harman, from Alpine, from Bose, from all these OEM technology companies, as far as being able to try to make those factory systems sound as best as possible. Multi-channel output amplifier. So now you have dedicated tweeter channels that are crossed over in an EQ, dedicated mid-range and mid-bass, and definitely dedicated really overly EQ'd subwoofer applications. And then the thing that we fight the most, we're dealing with ANC microphones to help with background noise and road noise and things like that, and just lots of different things that fight us in this industry during modern amplifier upgrades. Now, we've all known standard amplifier upgrades with the OEM head unit. We call this stage one. And this is adding line output converters. I mean, we've been around line output converters all of our lives. From the PAC brand, we've had models like the SNI 15 and SNI 35 for years that were the industry standard for many years. Then we created in 2014 the LP series. You had your LP3s, your LP5s, and LP7s. They were really good, handled a bit more power than the older SNIs, better sound quality because we went to more of a transformer-based line output converter. And then we had to deal with these data bus controlled amplified systems that we didn't have an interface for at the time, but had these multiple channels of output. This is when signal summing became the big thing in our industry, right? Remember, everyone's doing all these summing devices. So the PDLC-81 was our summing device that took 8 channels of high level input and kind of mashed it all back together to give you somewhat usable full range signal. And that's what we had to do for a number of years. But when you use older products, Ben, in modern vehicles, this can definitely happen, right? Because this SNI 15 and 35, Ben, they were built for older generation vehicles. SNI 15 was only built to handle 15 watts of input. And the 35 was an upgrade that gave you stereo gain pots and the ability to handle 35 watts of input, right? But now you're dealing with these big OEM systems, Ben, that can put out, 30 to 40 volts of output. And when you pair that up with some of these older technology pieces, you're going straight for the barbecue here, right? So these guys get super hot and they can't dissipate that heat, man. It's super crazy.
We've had people talk about this happening, but now this is the first time I see a visual of it. Yeah, that is toasty.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that it's the components inside. They're being beat to death and overheating because they can't take the power from, and you got to think most times line output converters are going in, you're adding a subwoofer to a system. So you're tapping on a mid-bass driver, tapping onto an OEM subwoofer. This particular SNI 15 was in a BMW with the underseat woofers, and we've come to learn, through guys like, the Educar group from Ken and things like that. Those BMW OEM amplifiers, those things put out well over, well at 40 volts of output. 40 volts is equivalency to roughly 400 watts. And the SNI 15, looking at 15 watts of input, of course, that thing was headed for a dead end,
This is a really good learning moment because I hear a lot of shops, customers come in and they buy these high-low level converters, DIY, right? They just off the shelf. And you should have this picture handy.
Yeah.
For the customer. Say, you sure this is what you want, sir, ma'am?
Right. They always show, bad wiring versus good wiring. The benefits of the benefits of a custom box over a prefab, and things like that. But definitely these components, trust me, it's our own product, Ben. So I'm not disparaging another company. This is a PAC product.
Right, but there's not a question of the product.
Right. It's just an old school product in the improper application.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Not that the product failed. It was not in the right application. That's
not in the right application. So in modern times, this is one of the things we really like to talk to dealers about. And this is going to be our new series of products called Lock Pro Advanced, right? So being that it's part of the Advanced series, when I know under AMP, we always joke about everything's pro or advanced and so forth and so on. But Lock Pro Advanced is a new series of line output converters that's going to take us into the future with our capabilities in-house here. So a lot of the reasons why we developed this is because, first and foremost, there is a huge number of modern vehicles, Ben, that require load resistors, right? And it's a variable impedances depending upon the year, make, and model of the vehicle. Now, the LP series we originally came out with, I said we designed those in 2013, released them in 2014. But because they were designed in 2013, the load resistance in 2014, just 12 months later, bam, changed just like that. Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep required a different ohm load for that load resistance. And what the load resistance does, and I'm sure we've talked about this in many different iterations, it provides a safety check in the head unit, high-powered OEM head units that power directly to speakers, or in the amplifiers. And what the head units and amplifiers do, they send a pulse out to check to make sure that there's a speaker still connected and playing on that channel. And if there's not a speaker there, if the speaker's blown or has been removed, that amplifier or high-powered output channel shuts off or mutes itself. So that load resistor is required to keep that channel happy and keep that output channel working without any issues. So that's one of the things we definitely had to add with our new product. And also we had to be able
is that built in or a separate piece that you need to add?
It is built in now.
Okay.
So starting with the entry level series here, you have your LPA 1.2 and 1.4. So these are active line output converters, Ben. Let me start there. Active line output converters. They require power and ground.
And remote.
Or they can do signal sense. They can do DC turn on as well.
Okay.
If you provide remote input, it will provide you remote output, right? The DC signal sense is an option you can turn off and on. Both of these units are 2-channel input, and you have the option of 2-channel output for the LPA 1.2 or 4-channel output with the LP 1.4. But you have to be mindful, Ben. This is where the thought technology of where we've lived in the past few years of integration, you have to make sure you're getting in a good signal for what you're trying to pass out to your amplifier. So if you're using the 1.2 strictly for subwoofers, make sure you're getting in a signal that's capable of giving you those low frequencies to go out to your subwoofer. If you're doing a 1.4, it's only 2 channels of input, but it's 4 channels of output. So if you're going to a front and a non-fading rear, make sure you have full range for front and rear. If you're doing front and sub, you definitely have that ability to do front on 1 and 2 and sub on 3 and 4 in a non-fading scenario. So the 1.2 series and 1.4 will handle up to 20 volts of input, 100 watts for channel peak. Then this is way higher than the previous LP series, and 3 times higher than the previous S&Is. Single match
who
pair
were all
game
passive
pods,
though, Mike.
who were all passive previously, right? So single match game pair, single pot matched gains for left and right. So you're never going to have separate left and rights being louder or lower than the other. So that's a huge benefit in the 1.2 series. We also include the ISO ground jumpers. So in case your input signal is a different ground potential, you can adjust that anywhere from adding 200 ohms of ground or directly ground to chassis ground to signal shield, or the ISO or floating ground option you have in the 1.2 and 1.4. The second series is going to be the LPA 2.2 and 2.4. Now this is going to be a step up, Ben. The 1.2 was 20 volts of input. Now the 2 series is going to take 40 volts of input, right? And you have same 2-channel input, 2-channel output with the 2.2, 2-channel input, 4-channel output with the 2.4. Now, what you're going to gain in this series, Ben, is now you're going to gain the option for a built-in low-pass crossover. So the 2.2 can be full range or strictly low pass. And the 4-channel now has a low pass and bass boost on the channels 3 and 4 output. And you also add the option for an LPA REM. That is a optional level control that you can now flush into your dash and now give you sub-level control and plug it directly into these line output converters.
Okay, we'll stop you there. Wait, hold on. But before I get lost in my question, so why have these two? Why not just come out with the 2 point? Is it just for cost savings?
Because so the 1.2 and 1.4 are going to be a lower price point, and then
Price point.
it's going to be price point, and then you may not always need that 40 volts of input. So we want to be able to have different offerings for different capabilities. So the 1.2, 1.4 should become your entry level line output converter, right?
Should really replace any passive converter at this
It
point.
should replace any passive. At this point in time, with all the cars in the marketplace, you should be using active line output converters from here on out, regardless.
Okay. Now, the second part is here you're talking about built-in crossover, but that's only in the 4-channel model, not the 2-channel model. The bass boost and the bass control straight from your LOC. Interesting.
So in the 1.2, you do have the ability to have low pass crossover in that 2-channel unit as well.
Oh,
so yes, it can either be full range or low pass and bass boost. So you do have the same features in the 2-channel and the 4-channel.
So a nice entry piece, active, gives you your sub on your factory system, easy to throw in. Gotcha.
Yep. And then you have the optional remote,
but no controller. Option.
Right. The controller is optional for the 2 series. So it controls the 2 outputs in the 2 series, and then the 2.4, the level control only controls channels 3 and 4.
Only 3 and 4. Okay. Gotcha.
Only 3
which you would dedicate for bass anyways.
Correct. Okay, another good benefit to all these units, Ben, is that they all have clipping indicators. So you know exactly how your gain output is being set when you're going out to your amplifier. So that's a huge benefit as well. Even
and that's how you put your customer system right there.
Right. Exactly. They're like, oh, the lights aren't flashing. That's when I know it's sounding good. No, that's telling you you're hitting that brick wall. Like you're going way too far with
this. Should be installed in a case with a lock and key.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And because the load resistors are built into these units, Ben, to handle this amount of power, so 20 volts in the 1 series and 40 volts in the 2 series, these are steel housing. So they're built to be like little heat sinks for these line output converters.
They look good, man. Yeah, I'd show these. I would show these.
And we showed them at the show. We physically had them there. So yeah, a lot of people were extremely impressed. Output voltage, of course, depending upon your input voltage, your output voltage can definitely be boosted up and above to what you need to go out to your amplifiers, up to 9.5 volts.
I see that 9.5 volts. So it's great preamplifier.
Right. So it all depends on what you're sending into it as well. So just be mindful of that. And last but not least is the big boy, Ben. This is the LPA E4. This guy here, this is everything. This should be the absolute standard in-house 4-channel, because this is the only one of the series that is true 4-channel input, 4-channel output. So if you have a vehicle that's going to require fading, this is what you would want to use. Is take front signal input and rear signal input and have fading. Or if you're going to take front channels in and subwoofer input, you can do that and have your dedicated factory sub signals going directly to channels 3 and 4 for your sub, and keep your full range signals going to channels 1 and 2. Now the E4A goes to an aluminum housing, handling even more heatsink capability. This one still takes 40 volts of input on all 4 channels. And this one's going to include the level control. So now this one has everything. 40 volts of input, aluminum housing, high voltage output capability, remote in or DC turn on, clipping indicators, dual pot match pair gain controls, low pass crossover on channels 3 and 4, bass boost on channels 3 and 4, everything all in a single package here with the LP AE4. So, and they're all relatively small. Ben, like the
you have one of these by chance? I'm just curious.
I have the boxes. I have the boxes.
Okay.
The units themselves. This is the box, dude. The box is tiny. I mean, compared to iPhone, I mean, this thing is tiny. So imagine how much smaller the unit itself is on its own. So the 1.2, 1.4, 2.2, 2.4, and the LP E4A are all still relatively small pieces that you can still hide behind a dash, hide under panels, things like that.
Man, I would show this in the install.
In a lot of applications, and some guys would. It looks like a little mini amplifier.
It does. It totally
very nice looking. So one of the biggest benefits, having the load resistors built in is that installers are not going to have to try to find a place to put these hot load resistors and things like that. So it's going to be a good thing. And these are going to be released into the market into July 1st of August. They should be shipping. So just trying to get everybody up to speed on what's coming down the pipeline.
While you say that, I should throw this up right here. because the dealers in Canada want to know where to get your stuff, obviously. So let's go ahead and throw that up right there. Automobility and Gentech is who you want to contact when it comes to everything PAC audio related.
Yep. And remember, these units won't be shipping until the end of July, 1st of August, around that time.
Pre-order, folks.
Pre-order. Definitely call those guys up at Gentech and Automob and order these line output converters.
No, so as a shop, though, I know. Sorry, I'm bugging in, but this is asking
fine.
a lot of questions. What do I need to take in, have an inventory now?
I would probably say you want to bring in a sprinkling of each series, because depending upon the price point of your sale, you're going to have your entry level line output converter now being the 1 series, your middle line being your 2 series, and for those larger, super high powered, need to retain fading scenarios, that's when you would have your E4A. But there isn't anything you can't cover with an E4A, right? So whether it's a non-fading, so if it's a situation where you need to have fader, where you have a front full range and then a subwoofer channel, at minimum the E4A will handle everything you throw at it, but that's going to be the most expensive one. So depending upon your price point, that would be where you would want to.
I guess expensive is relative. Are you comparing it to a head unit?
Correct. Yeah, these are nowhere near the price of head units. Nowhere near the price of head units.
And that's
we know we aren't the first to market with high-end line output converters for the modern vehicle platform, and we're not professing to be that. We're just creating our own little options and a few different spins on what's available out here in the marketplace for modern vehicle integration for amplifiers.
And for dealers tuning in, this is a category product you need to have in inventory. Because this is one of those solutions that customer comes in and say, hey, listen, I want to, yeah, we can do that. It's not, I got to go order this piece. This needs to be in the shop ready to go.
Right.
Regardless of the brand.
Standard issue parts in the bay, just like butt connectors.
100%.
Especially when there's no head units around. You got to do something to upgrade.
Well, exactly. Imagine you should do a display board of just LOCs.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Can you imagine?
You display all your head units, right? Why not display all your integration options?
Well, it's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Just last question before you go to the next slide. What does the designation for E stand for?
I think that's going to be like extreme, if I remember correctly. Yeah, LP4A,
more adjectives.
Extreme,
Pro, advanced, extreme.
Extreme.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah, cool. So the next thing we want to talk about is stage 2, right? Stage 1 we've been doing for years. Stage 2 is going to be data bus controlled amplified integration. And this is where we're going to start dealing with what happens when you're using summing devices and you're taking these pre-EQ'd, pre-crossed over channels and you're trying to sum them back together. Even though you put all those channels back together and you have tweeter, mid-range, mid-bass, and subwoofer all back together, you're still dealing with that factory EQ curve. You're still dealing with dynamic EQ responses as you drive or windows up and down and things like that. And it's not a flat response.
That's my belly curve.
So one of the things that dealers really want is, this is why the mentality of I have to put an aftermarket amplifier in the car is because they want that flat response. They want that super smooth response that they can start off with and then salt and pepper it to their liking and not having to add tons of seasoning to undo what the OEMs had already done. And we've had this in the marketplace for a few years now, and it's become a standard for lots of shops. But for the guys that don't know a lot about the product, we're going to talk about our amplified T-harness Amp Pro. So Amp Pro is a digital interface that allows dealers to T-harness into these modern data bus controlled systems and give yourself that full range flat output with complete control in the audio system. And a lot of dealers don't really get how it works, Ben. So let's go through a step-by-step of how it actually works.
Good. So I didn't have to say that I didn't understand. So that's good. Thank you.
All right. So think about it. In a modern vehicle with these premium branded amplified systems, you already have a signal that is full range 20 to 20. The issue with this signal is that it's fixed level coming in front of the amplifier. It's full tilt volume and you have no way of controlling it. What happens is that signal then travels down to the amplifier, whether it be in the center console, in the dash, behind the seat, and the data bus controls in that vehicle then tell that amplifier, okay, fade front to rear, balance left to right, adjust bass, treble, mid, so forth and so on. And this is typically where we come after the amplifier with each independent speaker output and we add in our line output converters or add in our summon devices. And then we're left here with this signal that is a mashup of all those independent channels, but EQ'd the way the OEM wanted it to be EQ'd. So what we do with the AMP Pro is that we actually intercept, since PAC is known for integration, we actually intercept that fixed level input and tie into the vehicle CAN bus at the head unit. So that way we can now take control of that signal and then be able to manipulate that full range signal out to 3 sets of RCAs, a front, rear, and a non-fading subwoofer application that can go directly out 4 or 5 volt to your aftermarket amplifier. Right? And we don't take the OEM amplifier out of the system, Ben, because what if you don't put in a full 4-channel, 6-channel amplifier, you only put in a 2-channel to add subwoofers? You're still going to need your OEM amplifier to play your front and rear speakers.
Or that doesn't block it?
And that does not block it because we allow the signal to continue to pass through, right? So it's up to you whether or not you still want to use any of those amplified channels. Your customer may not be financially ready to just jump out and do an entire system. So that's why we give you the ability to build it in stages and retain those factory amplified channels, rear speaker, center channel, whatever. You have that ability to keep that in line if you want to. So along with the 3 sets of RCAs that can be either 4 volt or 5 volt, we give you a sub-level control with the AMP Pro. And the key to a lot of newer systems to help you with this is a optional toss link optical output. Because we know everyone's slinging DSPs and DSP amplifiers these days.
That's the trend. That is the trend.
So AMP Pro definitely makes adding and installing DSPs that much easier, because when we were doing it the hard way in the beginning days of, well, the second, third wave, fourth wave of DSPs, everyone was having to go high level in and auto summing and auto DEQing and things like that, and trying to make this signal be usable. But now, since we have these interfaces to go in front of the amplifier, we can definitely take that pure flat 20 to 20 signal. You know, we aren't making it flat. It's already flat in the vehicle as it is. We're just giving you a way.
I'm happy you clarified that. So this it doesn't manipulate the signal whatsoever.
Not at all.
So 2 questions.
Yeah.
This unit here, it needs power ground remote as well?
It's a T-harness, Ben. It's already done.
Oh, it's already powered through the CAN bus.
Already powered. The one thing we do give you is we do give you a remote output for your aftermarket amplifiers.
From the AMP Pro
from the AMP Pro. So the data bus. So the data bus tells the amplifiers when to turn on and
turn on and then turn on. Okay.
Right. So you get a module, a T-harness, and you get the sub-level control in the box of every standard AP4. The toss link adapter is optional.
Optional. 2 more questions. Where physically in the car does this usually connect? Behind the dash, or is it near the amp?
At the head unit, because we do it at the head unit because we still want dealers to sell traditional.
No, but the Molex itself is physically behind the head unit.
It plugs in just like you if you were doing
one
of our Radio Pro.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha,
you unplug your head unit, you plug back into your head unit, then you plug into the OEM wire. So it is a T harness. No wires need to be cut. Everything completely
click and click.
Plug and
click,
play.
Click. 3 clicks.
I know the Canadian market knows T harnesses when they're dealing with remote starts.
Oh my God, remote start T harnesses.
Right. So we're doing T harnesses for audio now.
Okay, so I only see one downfall for this.
What's that?
The limitation of application that you have that are available for T harnesses.
You'd be surprised. So let's talk about the family of AMP Pro that's currently available, right? So currently we have the GM platform that covers a wide variety of 2014 up to some 2019-ish models in the GM platform. With GM, we require the unit to have an infotainment system that's coded IO5 or IO6, and it can be amplified or non-amplified. You have to read the manual for those specs. Then we have the Ford platform that is your AP4 FD11 and your AP4 FD21. This is going to cover your Sony systems in the Ford vehicles, the JBL systems in the Ford vehicles. Remember, it's Ford, Lincoln, Mercury. So anything under that Ford platform that's premium branded, you just have to check the vehicle compatibility list and the compatibility notes to know exactly what key elements require that AMP Pro to work in that Ford, Lincoln, Mercury platform. The Dodge Chrysler Jeep platform, there's 3 models, your AP4 CH21, CH31, and your CH41R2. The CH41R2 was an updated piece, which we'll talk about, to give way more application capability. Then we have our AP4 TY11, AP4 TY12, and your AP4 TY13 R2. Same thing with Toyota and Lexus. right? So GM, you got GM, GMC. Ford, you have your Ford Lincoln Mercury. Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. Toyota, Lexus. So there's a wide variety, a plethora of vehicles.
Like not
that
just
have
pickups. You're talking about the regular vehicles as well.
regular vehicles as well,
Okay.
sedans, SUVs, minivans, you name it. As long as they have the requirements that we list on the on the PAC compatibility list and tech notes, we can definitely make it work. Now let's talk about some quick updates. So we did the R2 update on the CH41, and this actually been now allowed non-amplified Chrysler Dodge Jeep vehicles to be added to the list of vehicles that work with the AP4 CH41. Now, there are a few compatibility issues, and that's because of the way the vehicles are wired. So if you have a Dodge Ram with a 5-inch screen, the AMP Pro is not compatible, but all the other large screens, the 12-inch screen, the 8-inch screens, all those for the Dodge Ram are completely compatible. But Ben, look at this list. You said, the compatibility: Chrysler 200, 300, Dodge Challenger, Charger, Durango, Ram. Look at all the Jeep applications. And if you look down at the bottom
13 to 21. Like
dude,
these are wide ranges.
Look down at the bottom, Ben. Even some exotics.
Is that Maserati?
Even Maserati, the Ghibli, the Levante,
look at
right?
that.
Because they're built off of that same Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep radio platform. They work with the AMP Pros as well, and a lot of the dealers have been able to get into those high end. Because think about it, dude. How often do you think dealers are really comfortable? An average dealer is really comfortable jumping into a Maserati.
I don't even want to pop a panel on a Maserati.
Right, and getting into that to add an amplifier. So having that ability is very cool.
Really cool. Plug and play.
Plug and play.
I hate that term, but it really is plug and play.
Right. Then our latest update is the AP4 TY13 R2. Now, this one is a huge improvement because what this added, Ben, was 50 new applications in 2018 and newer.
These are all new models, all new
Toyota,
models.
Lexus vehicles, right? Because you got to think, right? The first thing someone typically does when they get a new car, they want to add some better sound or maybe add a subwoofer or something like that. When this TY13 first came out, we only had it for 2 vehicles because the first harness that was available was only able to plug in at the amplifier under the seat of the vehicle. Once we figured out that there was more commonality with the harnesses behind the head unit, we were able to make this R2 harness configuration, and it works with vehicles with JBL in Toyota platform, Mark Levinson in the Lexus platforms, and the non-badged amplified systems in the Lexus platform as well. So this took a SKU bin that didn't move very well, and now you have over 50 new applications for the TY13 R2.
Sorry, I just had a question, Jeff. So you're saying it's pass-through signal. So technically, if I want to hook up an aftermarket 4-channel amp, I plug this guy in, I take it, let's say it has a toss link into the back, I get my fronts, my rears, I could still pass through if I had a factory sub to play the sub?
100%. 100%. But remember, if you're saying toss link, it's only 2 channels. It's only left and right. There is no fading.
There's no fading.
Right. There is no fading with toss
link. Or
link.
I can go the 4-channel.
Or you can go 4-channel in, high voltage, 4 volt or 5 volt, And the reason why we did that 4 volt, 5 volt switch on the Amp Pros, Ben, is because some amplifiers only can take up to 4 volts of input. Some can take 5 and greater. So if your amplifier can't take that input voltage, then you knock it down to 4 volts and you should be good to go.
Because I've seen some applications where the factory sub is just so well placed and they might not want to sacrifice that, but the front end is just not there.
Right.
This can still do that. Okay.
And we came out with Amp Pro, in the beginning, it's a 6-channel unit, and we saw that a lot of guys were really installing it as a high quality digital line output converter just to add subwoofers because it was in the process of an update. Customer came in, wanted to add a sub box, wanted to add an amplifier, but because of the inability to get a good high quality line output converter at that time, or the amount of installation time it took to do that, Amp Pros just seemed to be the way to go, even for a standard subwoofer install. But the price point was a little bit higher than normal for a standard subwoofer installation. So we thought about that, and we took the time to make Amp Pro Sub.
But of course, it has to have
exactly. So Amp Pro Sub is a little brother to regular Amp Pro. Instead of it being 6 channels, Ben, it is only 2 channels. Okay. It's going to come with the ability to plug and play T-harness into your factory head unit and give you that signal output for your subwoofer. So you get the subwoofer level control. You're going to get your remote output capability, completely plug and play. Still being able to plug into your computer into it and dial in your bass and treble your bass frequencies. It takes that factory bass tone control bin and allow you to customize it like a single band parametric EQ. You're right. Your factory bass tone control is typically 100 hertz, 150 hertz. Now with your aftermarket subwoofer enclosure, you can take it down to 40 hertz, 50 hertz, and adjust the Q of that EQ band now to make it more usable for that aftermarket subwoofer.
I missed a step. Where am I doing these adjustments?
Within the AMP Pro, you can plug the AMP Pro into a computer.
Okay, I missed that part. Okay, so there's an interface to a computer.
Correct. There's an AMP Pro application that the dealer can download from the PAC website and allow you to manipulate the EQ bands in the AMP Pro sub and in the normal AP4 band. So you have treble, mid-range, and bass on your OEM head unit. You have a 3-band parametric EQ you can go in and manipulate in the software, if you really wanted to get in and make this unit work that much better. Just like you asked about the family of products there, with the platforms for AP sub, we picked our foremost, fastest moving units and brought it over to the AP sub family. So you have an AP sub GM61, AP sub FD21 for your newer generation Ford, Lincoln, Mercury vehicles, AP sub CH21 for your low speed CAN bus vehicles for Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and your AP sub CH41. Now, remember, there's some key elements to how these guys work versus how the normal AP4s work, Ben. So all of these models are low passed at 350 hertz down. Why do you think we would do 350 hertz down? That's a pretty high frequency for subwoofers, right?
To protect the subs?
No, has nothing to do with protection for the sub, because we still know guys are using bass processors. So you need those higher octaves when you're using the audio control epicenter, you're using the shockwave feature in the kicker amplifiers, when you're using our bass cube and things like that. So you have those higher frequencies coming in so you can reproduce those lower octaves. So you definitely needed that higher crossover point for that reason. We talked about the AP4 CH41 R2 working in non-amplified vehicles, where in the AP sub, you can only use the AP sub CH41 and AP sub CH42 in amplified vehicles only. It does not work in non-amplified applications. Now, the GM platform of the AP sub GM61 will work amplified and non-amplified. And since we're always fighting and hunting down ANC mics, Ben, we decided to include the the ANC bypass harness with the GM61 and the AP sub CH41. So those are already included. So there's no need to go in and hunt and cutting wires and pulling headliners down to disconnect microphones and things like that. It's already there included. The bypass.
Jeff, do you know what ANC actually stands for?
Active noise cancellation.
That's all right. I knew noise cancellation was in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Active noise cancellation. So typically when you're driving a car with ANCs and it's trying to overcome road noise, trying to overcome the sunroof being open, the windows being down in the amount of road noise. So it creates that inverse in sound to help, kind of like your noise canceling headphones. It listens to your surrounding areas and tries to inverse that sound to neutralize it. But when you add subwoofers in the back and they're banging and beating on your music, and the ANC mics are going crazy trying to negate that bass you've now added,
it's not going to work.
Right. You have to disconnect them or bypass them.
Gotcha. And Toyota under development.
We do have AP sub for Toyota under development. So those will be coming out later in the year as soon as we get the rest of those, completely produced. So we have lots of good things in the marketplace, Ben, on the way. As far as being able to go in and do things beyond the head unit. So you still have ways of adding subwoofers, whether it be a passive situation or a data bus controlled amplified situation, still have ways of adding amplifiers. We're just trying to give everybody the ability to think about life beyond the head unit, with that particular way of upgrading your audio system. All right. Now, one of the things we do want to talk about is, because we talked about life beyond their standard head unit, we're talking single DIN, double DIN scenarios. What about the other head unit options out there? And where we're headed with that is by taking our infotainment unit, the high 10 that we've talked about many times on the show, Guys really know about this unit, but now they're thinking about outside the box of what the high 10 really offers for the consumer. Is that we're doing vehicle specific integrated solutions. So we're giving the consumers things that no other manufacturer is doing because we're able to control the integration side of it from a PAC standpoint, Ben, and we're also be able to to control the infotainment side of it through our Stinger head unit. So when we have the ability to control front of the house and back of the house, we can blend all of our power under AMP, our engineering power together, and give our dealers a solution that's above and beyond what anyone else is offering within the industry.
I'm trying to envision this because this is very unique. I'm trying to envision the brainstorm session. You got the guys in the PAC shirts and the guys in the Stinger shirts. Like, we should videotape that. I mean, that's cool.
Right. The think tank and all these
Yeah.
whiteboards.
No,
all
yes,
these
no,
whiteboards
we
going
can't. Yeah,
around.
but we can't. Yeah, just be interesting.
Exactly.
And let's be very clear. We did do a session on Stinger about the. I just learned in that video they called the heighten, which is pretty smart play on words.
Yeah, high 10.
The heighten.
Yep.
You know, it's got such unique features as far as, you know, incorporating all that info coming off the CAN bus, right? But now, well, there you go. You're about to do it. If you could just go back one more before you show this.
Yep.
I mean, just look at all those parts. The amount
Everything
of brain
you
power.
need. Right. That's one of the things we have to think about, Ben, because we think about in the development process, we think about what does the car need first and foremost, right? What does the car need? The car needs this data bus connection. It needs this type of integration. Okay, so what does the installer need? The installer needs the option for this capability. We need to make sure that because in the Jeep Wrangler, because there's no depth for the normal head unit to go into the dash. So we created this modular head unit that has the ability for you to take the brain, flip it up vertically and push it into the back of the screen and hold it a certain way. And there's so many different things. We took the harnessing since we have, you know, our PAC integration side of things, and we put the harnessing in front of lots of different installers, and now we created a completely plug and play system. Ben, when I say plug and play, there's not a single wire you need to cut. There's not a single wire you need to go looking for to solder into, to tap into for anything. This harness that comes with these SRK and SR kits, completely plug and play. Behind the head unit, at the junction behind the glove box for CAN bus integration, a speaker for all your chime retention, your GPS antenna, everything.
Cameras, the only one that you have to add.
Well, we do retain the OEM high definition camera, Ben. We're the only manufacturer to retain that high definition camera found in the Gladiator and the Jeep Wrangler. In the Gladiator, you have two. You have the front camera and the rear. We retain all those. But because the high 10 still has your 4 video inputs, in the Gladiator, Ben, you can have 6 cameras.
Oh, because factory's 2.
Because the factory is 2. So we don't negate those 2 with any of the 2 we already have. So in the Gladiator...
Is that because it's a single input coming in?
Because it's a single input through the HDMI port coming in, right?
Gotcha.
So we do that. Then in the normal Jeep Wrangler, if you have the factory OEM camera, you come in through the HDMI port and you still have 4 additional cameras. So that could be a front-facing camera, left and right blind spot cameras. You could have a off-road camera that's mounted under the vehicle. You know, it could be anything else you could think of that you can use for those camera inputs.
Sweet.
But some of the really unique features is from the integration side of things, is being that PAC link port on the head unit and the Radio Pro Advanced modules. Everyone knows our Radio Pro modules have been out there and it's become an industry standard. But the new Radio Pro Advanced modules have the ability with the PAC link port to pull this type of information from the vehicle's data bus and create these vehicle data screens. So you have your climate control, you have your vehicle status that lets you know when the hood is open, doors open, or you can see there's even an icon when the doors are moved off a Jeep, because we know people take their doors off the Jeep. Your TPMS information, whether or not there's a check engine code, and you can clear those out if you need. There's also drivetrain information. So Jeepers are always going off-road. They want to know what's going on, 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive capabilities. The off-road screens to let you know the pitch and roll of your vehicle, to let you know when you're wheeling off-road, how far you're going down a ditch and up hills and things like that. Before you flip over, you can see all that information, you know, compass, your coordinates, all the different vehicle gauges, Ben. I mean, transmission
Dude,
temperature,
Jeepers must
oil
love you
temperature.
guys at the shows. They must love this off.
100%, man. They see this stuff and they're just
And
like,
they-
this is stuff that they could not imagine having on a 10-inch screen in their
Mhm,
dash,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So that's
And
one
it
of the big
lines up nice cosmetically in that vehicle, in those vehicles.
100%. Looks like factory.
Mm.
And then we came out with the next gen, which is going to be the Ram, the SRK Ram 13H, since it's almost similar platform to the Dodge Data in the Ram. I'm sorry, in the Wrangler. We created a kit that flushes in the high 10 into the 13 to 18 Dodge Ram or Ram truck, not Dodge Ram truck, and then you have your 19 to 21 Classic as well. So as long as it's the classic body style or the correct year range, you have the ability to add that the SRK Ram 13H kit to give you the high 10 integration for that. Steering wheel controls, Ben, whether the vehicle is amplified or non-amplified, being able to have your climate control now on the screen, your gauges, your vehicle status, your performance information, 0 to 60, 60 back down to 0 for braking, because we know Dodge is always touting their performance capabilities, so we make sure all that stuff is retained for the dealers.
Well laid out, nice and visual. That canvas info is game changing.
Yeah, and we have it coming for more vehicles down the pipeline, Ben, but we'll talk about that in more sessions down the line.
All right.
But we have the GM platform, and this is a SR kit. So the SR kits are flush-mounted head units with existing hardware from the Radio Pro family, but still plug-and-play T-harnesses, Ben. Even in this scenario here, we even include antenna adapters, USB retention capability, everything that installers are going to need in the box for this particular kit.
Are those the adapters? Put the USB?
Correct.
Port?
So you have the ability to have your USB retained, and it fits right into the 12-volt socket output that's already there in the dash of the vehicle. And what's really neat about this GM kit, Ben, is that it's pre-wired to work with all iterations of the dashes in this truck. Whether you have the 4-inch screen, the 8-inch screen, they share the same harness.
So ridiculous in that truck.
And the 4-inch and 8-inch share the same harness, but then when you go to the IOB or the 7-inch screen, it requires a different harness, and that harness is included. Also included. So no matter what Sierra Silverado you come up against from 2014 all the way up to 2019 in the 2500s, everything is included in this particular kit.
That's great for inventory. Great for inventory.
The only thing you need to remember on this particular platform currently, is that you have to bypass the Bose amplifier with the current scenario. If you have a Bose equipped vehicle, you have to bypass the Bose amplifier. But the head unit has 50x4 high powered inputs, has optical output, has front rear sub out for adding amplifiers. So that Bose integration is not a huge hurdle for a lot of dealers.
Okay.
And last but not least, we have our new SR JK11H. And this is going to work with your 2011 to 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK. Now, the JK kit, Ben, this was a surprise for me. It's as popular, if not more popular, than the Jeep JL. Because you got to remember, this is an older platform Jeep. These guys have already gone out and spent thousands and thousands of dollars, to add these accessories to their Jeeps, and now adding the high 10 to now take that double DIN location over and give you a 10-inch screen that works with the amplified systems, the non-amplified systems. We give you USB retention, antenna adapter, SAT antenna retention. I mean, everything you can imagine in a completely plug-and-play scenario with the SR JK11H.
It's a lot less pieces, this one.
A lot less pieces, because the high 10 could already go in the Jeep JK in a normal floating install with the standard AI kit or best kit from PAC. But now, since we have this completely flushable,
it's like molded.
It's completely molded to the shape and holds that 10-inch head unit in there. Because you got to think, this particular vehicle platform was never available with CarPlay or Android Auto.
No, that's right.
So the high 10 adds that to these head units. So now they get CarPlay, Android Auto. They get dual USB. It's satellite radio ready, Bluetooth for phone calls and audio streaming, the optical output if you want to add DSP cameras, or DSP amplifiers, 4 different cameras, everything you could want, and everything is
Canvas info on that kit or no?
Not yet.
I was wondering why there's so much less wiring. Now I get it.
So remember, SR flush head unit mounts with an existing Radio Pro module. SRK integrated data bus connections, Radio Pro Advanced, PAC link port. So remember that SR versus SRK.
Gotcha. I think it's coming though. I have a feeling this is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, we'll save that for a later show because there's more vehicles coming down the pipeline also.
Oh,
yeah, definitely more vehicles coming down the pipeline.
I'm gonna guess Ford. That's my guess. Ford and maybe Toyota. Maybe we'll see.
We'll save that for more connecteds down the line.
Right, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Are we at the end of the presentation?
We are at the end, sir. That's it. Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you, I always learn so much when I have you on, Jeff. What's the takeaways here? Well, I think the new active LOC line is just absolutely integral to any shop. And I think you said that right. Whether it's the PAC brand or any other brand, really shops need to get there and have these type of devices in stock because they are solutions and for immediate sales. Like when the customer comes in wanting for a head unit, out of the gate, they're going to be disappointed that they're not getting what they want. Let's just be honest. In a lot of the cases, they're not going to get what they want. And that's not what we want the customer to feel. So if you could have that solution in place, ready to go, show them that, hey, listen, there's life beyond that. Listen, what kind of vehicle do you have? Get to know them, probe them properly. And those line up to one of those solutions that you have that are obviously plug and play. Great. If not, you've got the other tools like the active LOCs there that can get you that sound quality, that control over the bass that you can make the customer happy.
Yeah, Ben, there's so many different things out there. There's so many solutions within our industry. And this is one of the things that as a retail store, guys are going to have to learn that hopefully they watched Industry Week. Hopefully they watched all the connecteds every week and they learn about all these companies because I'm going to take 2 seconds and talk about a company that really blew my mind this weekend because I thought about it in this whole thought process of life beyond the head unit. When customers come in your store for these upgrades, Ben, they're looking for either a technology upgrade or they're looking for an audio upgrade, right? Mm-hmm. If they're looking for a technology upgrade, they want to add CarPlay, Android Auto, streaming capabilities, and things like that. When I learned about ZZ2,
oh God, Rich is gonna he's gonna love this. Go ahead.
I was blown away because think about it. Think about it. You have a vehicle with a very large screen in your dash. It's a data bus controlled amplified system. Your customer goes, I want a head unit. You don't have a head unit, but you want CarPlay, Android Auto. You want streaming. You grab a ZZ2. You can add CarPlay to a vehicle, add all these other features. You grab an Amp Pro, you grab an active line output converter. You can do everything you were going to do with an aftermarket head unit with all of these companies out here in the industry that allow you to keep your OEM head unit and do all the same things.
You know what the key is, though? Staying informed and knowing that these technologies and products exist. And that's why we are consistent with what we're doing, always keeping up, because there's always new stuff coming.
Imagine if we had a company or an outlet that was on social 24/7, that was interviewing companies, that was creating all this information that they could go back and watch 24/7. Imagine if we had somebody in the industry doing that.
That might be something cool to look at, I'd say.
That might be something cool to look at, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that ZZ2 stuff, I got to tell you, because they make that, they also can convert factory wired CarPlay to wireless CarPlay, which for me was like, yo, I got a car like that. It drives me nuts.
It even works in aftermarket head units.
And I
tested it on our high 10 this weekend.
And it worked?
And was blown away.
Okay, time out. So the high 10, just to be clear, that is a wired CarPlay Android.
Wired CarPlay.
So
if people want to turn it into wireless CarPlay, grab that ZZ2 piece and it will definitely turn into wireless CarPlay.
Yeah, they said it. They
blown away.
As long as it has either factory wired or aftermarket wired, most units.
Rich did a great job.
He wasn't sure about I asked him about this stinger. He wasn't
100%.
Sure.
Actually, so Dean and I walked over and tested it together, dude. It was awesome.
And it worked for sure. You can confirm
100%.
that. Well, there you go. He's probably going to add that now to his description.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's super cool dude. And there's so much coming down the pipe from applications, like all the Euro cars and everything. So you said it. You want the customer. Okay, here's where we're going to leave it at. Qualify your customer. Just because the customer comes in saying, I want to change my head unit, have the conversation. Why do you want to change your head unit? Is it because you believe?
Two scenarios.
Yeah. Is it because you believe that the only way to get better sound quality is by changing because the radio in your car is no good? Qualify the customer. Or is it because it's a safety feature? Like you just said, you know what? My wife drives the car. We need Apple CarPlay. I can't believe it doesn't have it. So if I have to change the radio to get it, I will. But hold on. Time out. Qualify your customer, because products like what PAC is coming up with could be the solution.
Yep. Whether it's PAC or any other company out there, man. I mean, if the dealer isn't informed and educated on everything that's available to them under the sun, us as manufacturers, we make all these products, and then people come to a show and they go, "Oh, I didn't even know you made that."
And you're like,
"Dude, it's been out for months. Where
yeah,
you
there
been?"
you go. Where have you been?
Right?
There you go. So
Jeffrey, knowledge is power, Ben.
Thank you for sharing that knowledge as usual, as per usual. I've got the digits down here. Obviously, PAC Audio in Canada. You're looking at calling either Automobility or Gentech for all the PAC Audio integration goodies.
Awesome.
Jeff, I'm gonna let you take a nap now. You can go back. You can go.
Lunchtime here, buddy.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, brother.
Take care.
Bye.
So there you have it, Jeff Smith. I'm never gonna get his title right, but he's the dude at AMP and PAC Audio, and giving us some learning, some food for thought. If you're watching this live or you're watching this on demand, think about that with the current situation with head units. And again, I want to be very clear. I am not being negative or talking down the head units, but let's explore the other options out there and get through this together. And our job is to make sure you've got the right info. So hopefully you learned as much as I did. We'll be back, of course, on Wednesday. We got Sony in the house talking about their brand new Mobile ES stuff they released this weekend at K-Fest, and we'll have our friends from Gentech on with us. And of course, what you don't want to miss is this Wednesday evening, we've got our CMA Live, all about pro audio. So we've got Ground Zero, Memphis, Alpha Group, and DB Drive in the house Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. On that note, thanks for tuning in to this session of CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.